You went to your local big box store and you picked up a massive ribeye loin. But do you know what you're doing? Stay tuned. I'll show you how I cut it up for maximum yield. So if you're shopping for this, it's pretty simple. This is a USDA prime ribeye. How do I know that? It says it right there. Also, it's got red labeling. So be careful when you're at the grocery store, especially around the holidays. It might say USDA prime rib, but it might not be prime. When you open up your cryovac, be careful. Don't get in there all willy-nilly and cutting the fat or like gouging steaks. Get a little knife in there, pull that plastic up. You paid for a really nice piece of meat. The last thing you want to do is just gouge it up when opening the package. And some ribeyes might have a little bit more liquid on the bottom of the package than others. Not a big deal. It's not blood, it is actually just protein water, myoglobin and water. All right, so the ribeye is made up of 3 different muscles. You've got the ribeye cap, which is the spinalis dorsi, third most tender muscle of the cow. Then you have the complexus, it's really what it's called. And then you have the fillet of rib, it's the longitudinus dorsi. I don't know the whole scientific name, but the spinalis dorsi or the rib cap is gonna be super sought after, okay? So we're gonna actually take this apart and cut these into different steaks and get the most yield out of it. Sometimes you might see more sort of striations under here. Now the rib bones would be positioned right here. Now obviously this is a boneless prime rib, but sometimes it's a little bit deeper. The butcher here, again, we paid for that USDA prime. You tend to see a little bit less negligent butchering when they take that off the bone there, but this looks really nice, okay? And the spinalis is gonna be right on the top, right here. So for me, there's 2 ends of the ribeye. So you have your strip end, which if you look really closely, it looks like a New York strip, because it is, right? So if this is the cow, and this is the cow's head up here, you have your chuck eye, and then you have what I think is the best half of the prime rib. And then further down, you would have your New York strip loin, which this to me is gonna be your leaner end. I don't like it as much. So if I'm gonna purchase a half a prime rib, I always make sure it's the chuck end. And if you don't know, just ask your butcher. And if he says, where the hell did you learn this? Tell him I watched a video with Chef Greg at recteq, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and basically remove that spinalis section and we'll show you what we got going on, right? But for me, I kind of get my fingers in there. You can kind of peel the muscle off and the cow did the hard work. I call this seaming, okay? So you basically just follow that fat seam all the way up, just like that, okay? It's not complicated, you don't even need a knife, okay? Making sure this is nice and cold will make your life a lot of it easier. Okay, so we're just gonna go all the way down and basically remove the spinalis, okay? You're not ruining anything. Okay, now if it gets a little firm, you can grab a little paring knife, works for this, and just kind of trim along that fat. Okay, now we've got that cap. Let me flip this around so you can see it better. How about that, Josh? We got down to that cap. That's what we're doing, just kind of take your fingers and get in there. We'll clean this up, and don't worry, man, we're gonna not waste any of this. So there you go, now you have that cap. Okay. A couple more tugs, couple more rips. Again, this meat is good and cold. Makes your life a lot easier. Look hand, left-handed. Ambidextrous cutting. Okay, so now we have what's called the fillet of rib. It's not filet mignon, okay? It's the long something dorsi, right? So now we have our sort of rib section here. We're gonna trim that off, and it's just, we're cutting through the fat. And this is where the bones are, okay? And sometimes you can get in there and kind of trim some meat out. I'm actually gonna save this, and we're gonna grind this up in its entirety, because see that fat right there is super milky and white. Maybe if you harvest some venison, you can take that, add some of that into your ground venison, and have an absolutely delicious added fat content into your venison. Now we can also get in here and cut some of this meat out. That's a different video. We're not doing that today. But not going in the trash, we're gonna utilize all of that. I'm gonna clean my board up a little bit. Now you can see there's a lot of fat here, and it kind of almost looks like a skirt steak in the sense. You see some silver skin on both sides, and then on the back, and it's not on every piece, you'll see a piece of that complexus. This one has pretty much been removed. It's actually gonna be right here. They're different for all of them. So this almost looks like we'll trim it out, a tiny, almost looks like a little baby filet mignon. That's your complexus, okay? So again, the ribeye is made up of 3 different muscles. All right, get into that in a second. So all I'm gonna do is take my recteq chef knife, kind of trim away some of this fat. And you might see this marketed at the butcher shop as ribeye cap or cap steak. But we wanna get this silver skin off of here because it's pretty tough. So just use that knife, make sure your meat's good and cold. Take the tip of the knife, kind of go underneath, and then, think of it like you're gonna fillet a fish backwards. Just kind of work that back. And again, we're not wasting anything. We're just removing that silver skin here. So take a little bit of due diligence and remove all of this silver skin. Your work and diligence will be handsomely rewarded, okay? Now this silver skin really can't be used for anything, so this stuff does go in the trash. Now you could ask a butcher to do this, but you are gonna pay an arm and a leg to do that. This easily goes for like 40, 50 bucks a pound. I would rather buy a nice knife and do it myself. Okay, I'm happy with how the top of that looks. Let's flip it over. Okay, and we're gonna kind of step and repeat, but your diligence will be rewarded. And again, some of that fat you can kind of just get in with your fingers and peel away. And making sure it's nice and cold will definitely make your life much easier. Okay, you can kind of just peel it off like that and expose more of that. Now you'll see less silver skin on the top side. It's the bottom side where those muscles intersect. You'll see more, but kind of get in here, trim it out. And this is that most enjoyable part of that ribeye. And again, I can take this and roll it up just like that and cut steaks out of it. And that's actually what we're gonna do, okay? Now you gotta be a little tedious with this because we wanna cut these into individual sections. So I'm just gonna do a couple knots here. All right, now that we got it tied up, we're gonna kind of even it out. Oh man, look at that fat and marbling. That is literally the best steak, the best bite on a cow. I don't care who you are, but I'm gonna cut these into medallions, just like that. Like, if you serve this to me at your house, I ain't mad at you. Look at that. It's like a filet mignon of spinalis. Okay. Now these are thick, I'm not gonna lie. You could definitely do like half size, but at that point, are we really friends? I don't know, okay? So we got what, 7 steaks out of that? Okay, there we go. 7 steaks. Now we have our, call this little mini filet, but it's not. Okay, it looks like it. But it's that third muscle that makes up that rib section here. Okay, there's usually just one piece right there. Flip it over, a little bit more fat. Okay. Now onto the fillet of rib. There's a couple different ways you can go about this. We can trim off some more of this fat, kind of even it up a little bit. We could also tie it, and this would be a great candidate for a roast. Or again, we can cut steaks out of it and clean it up. I think let's do a little bit of both, right? So let's cut some steaks, and we can clean them up after we cut, and that way we're not being wasteful. So if you're not sure how thick to cut your steaks, for me, I tend to use the meat slicer as a guide. So I'll lay it flat and then cut a nice steak, just like that. Now that is essentially a center cut rib section. So to keep it even, kind of rotate it up. These are great eating steaks, especially if your family doesn't like fat on the outside. There's a little bit of marbling there. I'm sorry. If If your family doesn't like big gobs of fat in a ribeye, this is a great opportunity for them to kind of get a good steak, but yet you still get a good value. Because anytime you cut it yourself, you're going to save so much money. Again, we paid $13.99 a pound for this. A butcher is going to charge you $18 for just doing what you did, okay? And all you got to do is buy a sharp knife and call it done. And if there's some fat up here that you want to get rid of, right, as you're trimming down, you can either take this off as you slice each steak or just trim it away prior. It's really up to you, okay? So if you want to trim this up a little bit, you can take a smaller knife and kind of trim off some of that extra fat, or if there's kind of meat hanging off a little bit. I don't mind a little bit of fat on the outside. It's just a preference, okay? And these almost look like little petite fillets. They're not, okay? So again, these steaks were cut from the chuck end, and this is gonna be from the loin end, right? And you can see this basically looks like a New York strip steak right here, because it is essentially the last 2 inches of ribeye. So let's count it down. We got a lot of meat here, okay? All of these steaks came off of that one ribeye, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Spinalis cap steaks. Now, you share these with your immediate friends and family. Like, this is maybe you need to buy new golf clubs, okay? You serve your significant other to this, okay? I guarantee, right, you're getting that custom fitted, right? Maybe you need to upgrade the couches at the house, right? They're getting a little flat. Cook this, they don't say no. We got 7 of those, okay? We got this beautiful steak, which is great for pan seared. You can turn this into like steak tips, would be delicious. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. We got 23 delicious cuts out of that whole rib section. And here's the thing, we paid the same price per pound, $13.99, okay? You're not paying $20 a pound. You're not paying $45.99. All it took you is some chef's knives, okay? Pick them up at recteq.com. We got videos like this to get the most out of your backyard barbecue. And I guarantee, throw this bad boy on a bullseye, you hit a home run for dinner. If you guys like this content, make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you at the recteq.